Could a creator take a case like that to court? Is there a way that they can allege, or would they have some sort of basis to say my work was copied via this AI
Yeah.
production process?
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be very similar, I think, to the process you have in music litigation, where you take a short section of the song, you play it up one against the other, and then you have an expert say, is it inspiration or is it copying? You're going to take a section of the AI generated art, and you're going to say, and you're going to point it at, you're going to take this little section of it and point it out against this little section of the original and say they look exactly identical. And is that inspiration or is that an acceptable amount of copying? And there's probably going to be, lots of junior associates in litigation digging through all kinds of documents and code saying, where did that piece of, where did you scrub that that art from? Did you take it directly from the source? Can you tie it back to the source? And if you took it back to the source, is there a defense, right? Is it a smiley face that is what we call, a scène faire, that is basically just a repeated image over and over again, such that you really don't have any protection in that kind of image? Or is it something that's more protectable? So yeah, I think that's one of the concerns, is that, again, you're going to collect someone who's going to collect all of the stuff and be the troll and say, all of this inspiration is mine, and I'm going to sue you out there that try to copy it, because all the inspiration is mine. Anybody else is just copying.
Can I jump in and bridge off of that? I'm hearing a lot about the idea of a derivative work and what's fair use and all of that, and thinking about my very limited knowledge. So maybe Professor Yu can jump in as well. But my understanding about how Stable Diffusion works when it's translating a text prompt into an image is actually, what it's able to do is what we would think of as genre, right? It does that extraordinarily well. So for example, if you type in, like, do it in the style of dystopian science fiction, the way that it's processed all of its training data has connected those terms to certain visual tropes, right? Certain things that are next to each other frequently, let's say, in those kinds of images. And so you're not actually going to be able to take a microscope. This is, again, in my limited understanding, and say, okay, if I compare this section of this piece to the derived AI generated work, you're not going to see anything that looks exactly the same. It's not that kind of copying, because it's generating something based on a set of rules which it derived from that work. So there's this step in between, right? And so the fact that it's doing actually what human creators do, just better and faster. When somebody says, well, I want to write a neo soul song, well, what are they going to do? They're going to train themselves on the data of the existing examples of that genre and then create something new. And I think that that's where it becomes something that is going to be very difficult for somebody to make a copyright claim against.
Yeah, but
I think it's going back to Michael's point about laissez-faire, which is sort of this doctrine that says there's certain types of expression that lacks the quality of originality. I don't have all my legal ease in front of me, but basically it's something that we've now deemed to be more in the public domain, right? So one of the examples we talk about in my class is this notion of cops and robbers, right? When you're writing literary work, that's not limited to just one, author, right? You see lots of cops and robber drama on TV, similarly with the hospital shows, right? You can have multiple versions of Grey's Anatomy, but the particular characters that are on Grey's Anatomy, you can't copy and take those. So, hospital genres. So the notion of what is a genre is really at play here when you have these AI assisted tools, because it takes that and now makes everything a genre, right? So now sort of scientific dystopian works have to have a particular expression with some particularity to say that that's your original work of authorship, but someone else can have something that also feeds into that same genre, but maybe their spaceship is blue and your spaceship is yellow.
Right,
And
right.
they're two independently created works, right? That's the, and you know, I play a copyright lawyer on TV, but my real world is patent law. But that's one of the, to me, mind-blowing and also equally frustrating aspects of copyright law, right? That's how you have lots of works kind of in the same categories, but they're all independently protected as copyrightable works. So I'd love Michael's take on some of this as well.
Yeah, I mean, this is a law school hypothetical. You've probably written exams on this, Professor Morris, right? It's like what's that line between genre and protectable expression? That's original enough to, have some kind of element of protection around it. You're absolutely right, Peter. I'm simplifying it. It's not that you're taking, a pixel from everybody's different art and copying it on there. Though you could do that, I'm sure it'd probably be really, really cool. But maybe that's something you can do on your own time. But yeah, it's diffusing it and it's taking inspiration from it. The question at a certain point that's going to come up in certain elements of art potentially is, are you diffusing it enough, right? To bring it back to a little bit more of a kind of tangible example of a song. If I hear a song and the chord over, it's a combination of 10 different chords and I like the way it sounds and I'm like, I like that, but I'm going to be inspired by it and change 2 of them. Is that enough? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. You're going to have an expert that comes in to say, no, it's not enough. And then an expert on the other side to say, oh yeah, that's a very typical progression in rock music to go that way. You might have experts in the art field to say, no, it's very typical to have this kind of genre of kind of a science fiction-y painting with, to go back to that last example of a queen in the front and everybody's looking in the background at a giant hole. And then an expert on the other to say, no, that's like, they're the first person to do it that way. And that's why it's original. So I think you potentially see, you'll potentially see infringement claims that are centered around that, and whether it's diffused enough or whether the original inspiration has been copied enough. But you'll have a lot of those questions about where does it fall on that side of the dichotomy of expression versus idea.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a fair point. Yeah, it's not as simple as a one copy in most cases.